your solution, most solutions kind of have a trade-off to it, where you give up one thing to get another thing. You just seem to give benefit. You make yours, and I'm not trying to be promotional here, but you make the more efficient and so forth, and the trade-off is the price you charge the client for it. Are there trade-offs for it? And given, like, and you're not pricing it, well, we get a 30% margin or whatever it is. You can say, well, if we're saving you $1,000, you could claim kind of half of that. Or so could you talk about sort of the pros and cons? And I guess one of the cons to it is the risk of a new technology. All these big guys are risk averse if it fails or there's a recall or something. I've thrown out a lot there, if you can kind of address those things.
Okay, perfect. So from a trade-off perspective, I mean, there's a trade-off on the physics side of it. So there's only so much you can do with speed and torque. They're interrelated. So there is a trade-off on how we manage it. So if we, if we tried to do more gearing than we currently do, you'd be less efficient. So we feel like with the coil driver, we're offering the best solution that balances those trade-offs from a physics perspective. From a commercial perspective, you're right. There's a cost trade-off to a performance trade-off. So if you want that ultimate performance, it's going to cost you a little bit more. Depends on the type of application. A small e-bike may not be able to handle a 10% increase in cost, but an e-bike that's a $15,000 performance e-bike definitely can. So there's a trade-off in where we market. And then from a purely kind of where we found the biggest trade-off is really that relationship with the motor manufacturer. And that's something that we've really learned over the past year. The ability to get those extra leads out is a little bit of a trade-off because you're taking up a little bit of space in where the engine would sit. And it's easy, but it's difficult. So we have to make sure that we've thought about that in advance of each and every project. And then, of course, there is an interrelated relationship between the battery and the gearing, even though we're not directly affecting those. If we think about a trucking application, today that truck manufacturer may only be able to use a large battery or a large gearbox. So by using ours, it's a trade-off. They may get a slightly smaller battery, but at 30% less weight. So there's a dynamic of the optimization that we have to think to, and that comes from a lot of people that are a lot smarter than me that are doing that design work.
On the business development side, you make the systems more efficient, smaller batteries or longer range and so forth. Like that's what every EV or mobility company wants to get. When you pitch this, are they like, how skeptical are they? Are they like, well, let's see how it works with Linamar and the other guys? Or like what are their concerns, or what are you going to take? What is it going to need for everyone to go, yeah, we want this system?
Yeah, definitely. With any new tech, I mean, it's been said by many people before me, taking something from IP, from a white paper, from a piece of paper to actually series production, not even pilot. Pilots are hard, but series production, cost-effective solutions are really hard. So of course there's skepticism as we first approach customers, not in the tech, but in our ability to take it to market in a cost-effective platform. And some of that is just time, and it's hard because it seems like we're quiet, but really what we're doing is cost out efforts and supply chain efforts and manufacturing automation efforts that help us to be well positioned to be able to make a profitable business in the next 2 to 3 years. So I think that there's some skepticism out there, but for the most part, when we first talk to a customer, when we're talking to a CTO of a major company, they know what we're doing right away. It's not magic, it's physics. It's physics applied in a new manner through electronics. So they want to see that we can do this cost effectively. That's the number one thing we see. You can achieve that, that's believable, but can you do it cost effectively? So that the things that you need to look for from the market perspective is that operational validation. When that Mack truck hits the road and C Electric says it works, whatever size of company, it's a working operational product that we can now put into any Class 8 product. When that UPS truck hits the road, it's what's called a Class 4 to 6 truck, and that's 59. Every fleet operator uses that same platform, so we don't need to redesign the wheel. It's the same thing. We can customize and we can tweak a design, but it's the same thing. So as we get it out to market and we show that step, that's really the next step that we're working on, and that's all happening this year.
All right. There are several questions about your head office in Arizona. Is there anything you can comment regarding that?
Yeah, so I'll keep it brief. It's funny how much the world has changed with the internet. So we definitely have roles posted
anymore.
There's no secrets. So I will say that I am here in sunny Arizona, as you can see from the sunshine coming through, scouting for our new location. We're weeks away from announcing where that will be. It is in the state of Arizona, is what I can say, because we've started posting roles for recruitment, and I'll happily share that as we position ourselves with our new U.S. headquarters early next month.
All right. There's a question here on why does it take so long for the testing? And is that basically people are concerned, risk averse, they got to make sure it really works and just takes time to do that?
That's part of it. Think about it. Let's bring it to a human nature side. Think about it like a surgeon. If a surgeon is going and fixing a broken leg, it might take him 2 hours. But if he's going in to do brain surgery, you're going to be in that operating room for a very long time. So again, our controllers are like the brain to a system. So it's a very systematic set of testing, and it's a very systematic set of algorithms to hardware, so software and hardware. So once we get one piece, we have to go through a limited bunch of number of testing. Soon as there's anything that's even just slightly off from what our simulation was, we need to go back and do it from the start again, all very methodically testing. So it's a very, very time-consuming process. As we grow as a company, as we get additional dyno bays and we get additional test centers, watch for that. That increases our ability to test faster. And so for now, we're working as fast as we possibly can. The testing is going well. You know, everything that we're working through is kind of what's expected for this type of development. So we're feeling really optimistic about what's coming.
All right. When is EXRO expecting to start commercializing of high voltage inverters?
Right. High voltage commercialization, we believe, will start happening probably by the first quarter of next year. We're hoping for the end of this year. You know, we're targeting, but I think realistically we'll probably hit the first quarter of next year, just once the operational validations get out. You can see some social media posts that we've made recently, LinkedIn and Instagrams, where we've posted a new 2-minute video advertising our new 800 volt coming soon. That's the product that we're talking to, and that's the Mack garbage truck that will be on the road by September.
There is a question here, how large is the market for second life batteries, and what does the BCS system offer that other competitors don't? Is it really just a market, oh, there's sort of a used car market, or you're just providing a power solution and it just happens to use recycled or reused batteries?
Yeah, that's a good description of it. We're providing an energy storage system, a stationary energy storage system that happens to be able to use second life. That's the foundation of the technology. You could use a battery, again, straight from a supplier. The second life battery stationary storage market, the complete container utilizing a second life battery, is forecasted to be a $30 billion market, or close to $30 billion market, by 2025.
All right. Sorry, just a lot of questions here. Your improvement was 7%, but previously mentioned 20 to 30% efficiency gains. And I don't know, can we maybe address this earlier, where you talked about for motorcycles, maybe the benefits aren't as great, but for a garbage truck, it's greater. Is that where kind of the different efficiency gains come in on the type of application?
Yeah, and I think some of that comes to, you know, it's a complicated piece of technology, and so I think some of the gains have been miscommunicated or misrecommunicated in the marketplace. So we want to think about it in two different ways. When we're thinking about performance, we're thinking about speed and torque, how fast and how strong you're making that vehicle. In that area, we have about a 30% increase in speed and torque. So where we're actually gaining performance, and that's where we think about commercial vehicles or race cars or even passenger vehicles that are driving on hills and valleys type of applications. And then there's an efficiency gain, and this is a system efficiency gain. So to my knowledge, there's nothing that increases a motor efficiency externally. A motor efficiency is driven independently, but a system efficiency means how far you're going to go on that charge. And that can be anywhere from 1% to, in some applications, we've seen over 7%. But on average, we see about that 3% efficiency gain. It sounds very small to the basic person. It's huge in the market. And for the most part, our customers are asking us for gains of about 1% is fantastic. If we can do 1%, we've saved an enormous amount of money and brought them performance that is otherwise not achievable. So we're right where we want to be for our markets, but I want to clarify that there is two different pieces. So we're not increasing efficiency by over 30%. If somebody knows of somebody increasing efficiency by over 30%, I'd love to know that company because I haven't heard of anybody doing that. Speed and torque, upwards of 30%. Sometimes it's over 50%. Efficiency, upwards of 1%, average 3, sometimes up to 7.
And just regarding the BCS system and your coil driver system, from what I can see in reading the research reports, I'm not really aware, or I don't know if anyone's aware of anyone having a competitive type situation. So that's kind of good and bad. You've got to sort of prove that this new technology works and cost effectively and so forth. But on the battery control system, that is a much more established. There are a lot of other companies out there doing battery control systems, power electronics, and so forth. Is that fair to say that's a more competitive side?
Yeah, I was going to definitely, it's a more competitive side. On the coil driver side, there's really nobody doing what we're doing through an inverter. There's all kinds of inverters in the market, but nobody with our kind of tech. It's really a standalone, no direct competition. In the battery control system, there is a few companies, a very small handful, globally that are looking at cell level control. So there's a couple of direct competitors, much different than ours, but trying to do the same thing. And there's a whole bunch of companies doing interesting things with batteries and battery management systems. Ours is very different in the solution that we're taking to the market. In the tech itself, that ability to look at cell level control, we're exceeding a lot of the current UL standards that are on the market, and it's a patented design, but it's also an innovative design. And it's just coming out, and we've just released our first patents. We're pretty excited about it as a team. So on that one, I'm going to say we're being a little quiet right now as we establish the rest of the product line, but we'll share more as we go in the coming months and why we're differentiating.
All right, we have a few questions here, and I was going to ask this as well, but regarding Potencia, I believe that was the first sort of commercial partnership or whatever you want to, it was announced. It seems to be a little long in the tooth there. I don't know if that's fair to say. How are things going with Potencia?
Yeah, it's definitely been a little slower for both Potencia and us than we had hoped. That one's been a little bit harder to navigate with the pandemic just because we can't go over there and virtually test. Now things are opening up, so we hope to see it back on. But so far, everything's been going good. They have our product. They're doing their in-house testing. We're on schedule right now to give some updates in the third quarter, end of third quarter of this year. So we're still on schedule for that. We don't anticipate any delay at this point in time. We had hoped to be a little earlier on it. We like to kind of, overachieve when we set our milestones. But like I said, it's just been a little slower to get to the finish line on that one. But so far, so good.
All right, there's a great question here regarding Linamar. Have you signed, is there any sort of exclusivities with Linamar that'll prohibit you from doing business with other people in the industry or putting together another sort of axle type product?
No, there's not.
All right. Another question on that. Actually, with your because with your coil driver system, you adjust it so you get different torque curves on your thing. Is it just? I think I was reading this out of one of the research reports. Is it just 2 torque curves you get, or are there all sorts of incremental torque curves that you can sort of adjust? Or it's not just a binary one you can sort of tweak it.
Yeah, it's not binary. It's dynamic and it's real time. So we're controlling a torque and a speed. And so that's where we're saying we're optimizing a torque and a speed. But within, so you're climbing up that hill, it's going to sense it and it's going to demand. And we've got some great torque curves in this presentation, which you'll have, and also in our upcoming, we'll have an updated corporate deck on in kind of mid-July that has the same type of torque curves you see there.
All right. And is there opportunity for your technology in the hydrogen fuel cell transportation market?
Yes, there is.
And then that's because hydrogen gets turned to electricity that drives the electric motor instead of the battery. There wouldn't be opportunities for the BCS system in hydrogen, but there is for the coil driver for transportation. Is that fair?
There possibly could be applications for our battery control system, but that would definitely be a development that we, again, thinking of Gen 3 type of look. But most definitely from the coil driver side, there's a benefit there for, again, as long as there's a motor and a drive and the application is dynamic, meaning you need power and torque at the same time. It's a great application for us. And mobility is definitely where we're 100% focused today, but there's lots of applications that have a motor and a drive that need power and torque that could be future segmentations for us.
All right, and I think we're running out of time here. Two quick questions here. Is there any opportunity or need to have a physical in Europe to have a location there, or I guess in Asia as well? And then as well, someone mentions a company called Turntide that's apparently gotten some funding out of Gates, Bill Gates and team.
Yeah, I know them. So yes, I'm sure in the future you'll see us expanding into Asia and Europe. What that looks like today, we're kind of just planting one seed at a time right now. So we've got our Canadian facility in a really good position. We're really proud of what we've built there. We're starting to look at our U.S. presence to really substantiate ourselves here in the U.S. And we're starting our discussions around what our footprint will look like in the future. Not this year, probably not at the beginning of next year, but we'll see what our footprint would look like in Europe and Asia. Those are big markets for inverters. They're important markets for electrification, and they're definitely markets that we want to play with at the right time. From a Turntide perspective, I know well of the company. They have some very interesting and fantastic tech around a switch reluctance motor, much different than us. In that they are doing a switch reluctance motor. That's not new technology. Their patents sit in their ability to control different things, but they're not doing it through the electronics like we are. Switch reluctance motors have been done by manufacturers like Nidec and GE for many, many years. The use of that in automotive is still under review. I don't know if companies using switch reluctance motors today, but that's not to say that it's not going to happen. And as far as the investments from Bill Gates, Turntide has really focused to date on smart cities, on the ability to change buildings and air conditioning units and have a cost-effective rebate, not necessarily product rebate for energy usage. And so that's a big piece of why they've got the funding that they've got. We don't see them as competitors today. We see them as complementary technology, and we'll see how they progress as a company.
Going back to your location just quickly, how come Arizona? Is it just like taxes and land prices? Why not Detroit or Silicon Valley, or like just broadly,
right.
Why Arizona?
So again, it's the beginning of our footprint in the U.S., so you will see additional offices popping up across the U.S. as we look to be close to our customers. It will be our headquarter for the U.S., and there was a lot of planning to get us to this location, working with business development centers for the best cost positioning for the business and for our shareholders, but also from a purely business perspective. It's close to customers. It's close to top talent for automotive power electronics engineers. It hosts one of the best engineering universities in the US. And it's really easy for me and the executive team to fly back and forth between our headquarters in Calgary and Vancouver to here in Arizona. So a nice quick trip if we need an engineer here for the day, 3-hour flight direct. So, there was a logistical side that definitely played into the decision for us. Also, having good weather year round does help when you're trying to demo your products and take things off road and show torque and speed all year round. So it will be a homestead for many great events as we start hosting events in the new year.
All right, and sorry, one last question, which I wish I had thought of as well. Any opportunity for like power tool or hand tool electric, like vacuum cleaners or drills and that?
Yes, again, I'm not going to try to say that would happen this year just from purely a resource perspective, not from a technology perspective. That would be a development if we had the right partner this year that we felt could share in the development and was a good leader like what we found with Linamar, then definitely we would enter into that sooner. There is areas in the larger power tools that's a really good market for us.
Okay, great. I guess we should wrap it up here. John, you haven't said much. Is there anything you want to add in onto this? You've been a good guest.
I will just say that we're still very well funded. We have approximately 36 million in cash on hand, which is good for about 2 years. So that's taking into consideration all our sort of forecasted budgeting plans. So yeah, so we're fine right now, under no pressure to have to go and raise money if anybody's concerned about that.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much. That was fascinating. It's been a while since I had gotten an update on the story, so it's great to be brought up to date on how things are going. Thank you very much, and all the best. This looks very exciting.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time out of your day to come see us. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.